CeeLo Productions presents Backstage Access. I'm your co-host, Scott Lowe.
And I'm your co-host, Tony Gonzalez.
And in this podcast, we discuss all things in the world of Christian music and entertainment. All right. Thank you for joining us on Backstage Access. This week, our guest is the group Sight Received. How you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us on.
Hey, guys. Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
So maybe for our listeners who, they haven't had a chance to check out your guys' music, or, maybe they know you guys buy your music, but don't really know too much about you guys as individuals. If you don't mind, why don't you guys share just kind of your personal stories, your testimonies, and then kind of how your guys' stories came together to start the band.
Yeah, here. I'll go first. So I'm Christian, and I'm the front man, the lead vocalist. We've been playing. This band started. I kind of usually tell people about 2018. Just as weren't sure exactly what we were going to do with it yet. But yeah, I kind of got with Colton here early on. He's our rhythm guitar player, and playing local shows and everything. And obviously, it didn't last too long because I think there was something that happened in 2020. I can't remember what it was, but and then unfortunately during that time, we had already recorded our first album, and we had planned on doing a whole album release show in that spring, and so obviously nothing was happening there. So during the summer we released it, and just kind of waited and did what we could to write more stuff. And, ever since we've been back, 2021 or so, we've just been pretty consistent in trying to release whatever we can. And, we've got a new EP we just released that we're really proud of. And got a string of shows we're playing that I'll get into here soon. But, yeah, the name of the band, it was, I can't remember the exact verse, but it was out of Matthew, where, Jesus goes up and these blind men come up to him, and Jesus says, "What does he want me to do for you?" And they say, "We just want our sight." So he rubs their eyes, and it says that they received their sight and they followed him. So that kind of stuck out to me with naming the band. Is, once you're saved, you're born again, you kind of receive new eyes, new sight, with the Holy Spirit and everything. And so thought that, it was a catchy enough title, and kind of spoke into the testimony of all of us as believers. So that's kind of where everything started from there and onward.
Yeah, so I'm Joseph, the lead guitarist. I joined the band in the summer of 2022, actually through a mutual friend. Let me know that Sight Received was looking for a guitarist. I actually went to the same high school as Christian. I never spoke to him once. He was 3 years older than me. But, just a friend of ours was like, "Hey, they're looking for guitarists," and so I tried out, and it was a great fit. They had the same, faith as me, obviously, and so that was a good fit there, sort of culture-wise. And I also believe that music can be a really good vehicle for bringing, people to know Christ, to know God, to know a better way of life. And so that's what kind of Sight Received is also about in another sense. It's, of course, first and foremost, creating great music that people love, but also bringing that experience of God to them as well. So it combined those two things together, and that really helped make my decision to join them. And the music's great as well. So that's kind of my story for how I ended up in the band. So.
Okay.
My name's Colton. I'm the rhythm guitar player. This is actually my second stay in the band. I joined up about 2018 or so, and with the pandemic going on, we kind of had that fun thing going. So I made a small hiatus from the group to focus on some other side project stuff, but rejoined back up when we needed the guitar spot filled again, and I've been there ever since. It's been a blast. For me, Christian music is a big part of my life. I grew up in the church when I was little. Then I'm inspired heavily by bands like Disciple and Mayfire, so there's a lot of gritty stuff going on in the productions and guitar land, so that's the part that I take.
Good deal. I know you guys had said, you the band started in 2018. So walk us through kind of what was, if each of you, kind of don't mind, walk us through kind of like your upbringing, and what it was that ultimately, you made the decision to follow Christ. Like kind of how did that take place? And just kind of share us, a little bit about, your personal story.
Yeah. So for me, I would say I've kind of always believed. It's always made sense to me. I think he saved me as a very, very small boy. Obviously, there's been concepts like the Trinity and stuff I didn't understand, but kind of what Jesus says, how he wants us to come to him like a child. I think that I came to him in that sense as well. And so been involved in multiple churches and everything growing up. My parents would be involved, attend one place for a while, and then we kind of went it for a while, and then it was kind of like that, off and on. I would say later in high school was when I started really taking my faith a lot more seriously. I joined up with a church, during high school, and ended up, becoming a leader there and did an internship there, and actually got hired on as a youth pastor there for a while. And then I'm not serving in that capacity now, but I do a lot of things with like worship and stuff at the current church that I'm at, evangelism, like street preaching and stuff like that as well. So it's always kind of made sense to me, but I think just he's continued to sanctify me and see where it ends up later on, but that's kind of where I'm at now.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
I mean, for me, it's similar in that way. I mean, I think a lot of people who grow up in a Christian household kind of have that early, early as a kid, you sort of have that acceptance, but you're not really super aware of everything that's going on or all the concepts involved. And so really for me, it was, later in life and in teenage years, you kind of learn to take hold of your faith and make your own in a way, and try to really, live in a certain way that really glorifies Christ. And my dad attended seminary for a time, so I was always educated in these ways. But you really have to make your own. Your environment can't do it for you. It has to be a personal decision and devotion. So, especially later in life, I just continue to learn and continue to try and grow in that. And you learn that you can really come a long way, put a lot of effort into it. So, I guess that's kind of my story. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And man, I'm so glad that you brought that up about, owning your faith, because I think so many people that grow up, in a Christian household, in a sense, they're raised to believe what their parents taught them. But taking that decision to make that relationship your own, making it your own journey, man, that's huge, because, at some point, like you said, you have to make that decision, for yourself, and no matter what environment you're in, no matter what family you come from, your walk has to be your walk. And definitely our parents are there to encourage us and to walk alongside us and other people that God puts in our life. But we have to be the ones that take responsibility, to make it our own, our own faith journey.
Yeah. So for me, I had a similar start to this. I grew up and went to Sunday school with my grandparents. I was about 4 years old. And I also started attending in a Awana group. I was about the same age, kindergarten, going up to third grade. But so I was in there and learning all about the Bible stories and who Jesus was. But when you're that young, you don't really have much of a capacity to really understand what that means. Yeah, Jesus died on the cross and he rose again. Cool. What does that actually mean? To a 5-year-old, it really doesn't mean that much. So I grew up in that into about middle school. Then we had some life changes where I wasn't able to go to any sort of church activity. So I kind of had this brief falling away about 2 years. So 7th and 8th grade, there wasn't a whole lot of thought about who God was, what he did, and just kind of pursuing myself in that time, kind of trying to fill that hole with whatever I could find. And unfortunately for me, that was things like pornography and just things that normally God will fill that hole in your heart with something that's pure, and that's just not what was there for those 2 years. After that, I found this youth group in Aberdeen, and a friend of mine who actually got me into the band in the first place was somebody that invited me to that group, and I just met God there in that place and encountered Him in a way that I had never even thought was possible before. After that, I just started looking up some Christian music bands, and worship was cool, but it was never really something that resonated with me. So just about every Christian finds Skillet first.
Right.
One that really resonated with me was a band called Disciples. So that was a big entry level for the aggressive music style, and went to see them a couple of times, and just the level of passion that Kevin Young has in his speeches and his stage performance is something that you don't encounter very much. So after that, I decided myself, like, I love listening to Christian music, but I feel like there's a higher calling here. I've always had an interest for music and wanted to play it myself. So I picked up a guitar and started doing some Skype lessons with some of the Disciple members themselves. I learned some songwriting from them, learned how to play guitar. I joined a worship band as the drummer. Then a couple years after that, the guy who invited me to the Bible camp said, "Hey, there's this band that needs a guitar player. Would you be interested in checking them out?" Like, sure. So then I messaged Christian, and the rest is history from there.
Wow. Yeah, it's Disciple. Obviously, Skillet is, it does seem like everybody that starts listening to Christian music, kind of Skillet is a lot of times that one band. And, for me, it was Seventh Day Slumber. But Disciple didn't come, Disciple wasn't too far behind that. But you're right. I mean, Kevin, I've seen Disciple, I think 4 or 5 times, and Kevin, just his energy, his passion, his testimony. I mean, it's rare to find somebody like Kevin that is just not only just a really solid entertainer and musician, but just is so raw and vulnerable, when he shares his story, which he does. I mean, literally every single show. We've had so many people on here on the podcast who have talked about how Kevin is an inspiration to them in regards to his stage presence and just how he speaks. And then obviously we have a lot of people on here who have talked about Josiah being a huge influence in the songwriting process, and how he has, just helped encourage and helped with writing music for other bands. So you said that you took Skype lessons from the guys in Disciple. How did that come about?
That was not too long after my first Disciple concert. I was just kind of scrolling through Facebook one day, and since I was following them, normally Facebook would be like, "Hey, you like this stuff? This is some other things you might be interested in." Usually you are, and usually it's something that you just barely even mentioned, and now your phone's listening to you. But I was just kind of scrolling through, and I just got this little ad that Josiah had made for his Skype writing lesson. It's like, oh, that's really cool. So then I send him an email. It's like, hey, I'm kind of interested in that. I don't know if I'll be able to afford it. But he messaged back, and the rate that he had just happened to work with what I was able to afford with my financial aid for that year. So I booked about 6 songwriting sessions in just like kind of a group pack. And after that, we made about 6 songs, and the very last song that we worked on actually ended up being on my side project record.
Oh, wow. That's
cool. That's really neat. I bet there's not very many other people that can say that they got to train alongside with Disciple.
Oh, yeah, man. We just cling on to his fame and try to hope that,
Oh, man.
He's an expensive member to keep in the band.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about, go a little bit deeper with your guys' influence. We'll kind of one at a time here, if you guys would like to jump on. And, I know for myself, when I was a kid, I've always loved music. Since I was a real little kid, and, I can sit here and name off, a ton of influences for me, but, real interested in, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear, who your guys' influences were. Anybody jump in?
Yeah, I think, for me, I'd have to say, a lot of stuff that, I've listened to or grew up first was just stuff with my dad that he would have, this is like kind of mid to late 90s stuff of, Alice in Chains,
nice,
Bush, Tool, and things like that. So, obviously not a lot of, it's much more secular.
Right.
But, I kind of always kind of gravitated towards that. I know in middle school, I really got into, Nirvana and things like that, and kind of got more into more modern versions of that with like Caesar, 3 Days Grace. And then move on into high school, started kind of getting more into heavier stuff, like A Day to Remember, Memphis Mayfire and everything, Bring Me the Horizon. So, I don't know. The influence, I'm constantly being influenced now. I think it's just insane just how much the internet has opened up, almost just like a Pandora's box of just like anyone can do anything. And
right.
Like you just go in these deep rabbit trails of, now there's like, Bad Omens has like dark wave, I think is what they're calling it now. It's like this new single that they have, and it's like kind of like a new take on like industrial, and so there's just constantly being able to just like create new sounds and new genres, and get lost in the weeds in that, in a good way, I think. So, but yeah, a lot of what people would consider now like, butt rock and everything. That's kind of what, I was kind of grew up on and inspired by. And, you can kind of hear it in some of our music. I think we have a good sound that resonates with people who like really, really heavy stuff. It's like right on the border of where it's like too soft. And then there's people who don't really like heavy stuff, but it's like just heavy enough to where they'll still listen to it. I think we're kind of like right in the middle there. And so, I think, and I think even in the band that works, our drummer Josh, he listens to just like crazy deathcore, impending doom and all sorts of stuff like that. And so, to him, our stuff is like just soft enough to where he'll feel to us. And then we have Joseph here, who's for some reason like Nickelback and Megadeth and everything. So we present stuff like that, but it's like we're still like heavy enough to where he can still like enjoy it. So
yeah, I was 10 when Guitar Hero 3 came out, so like that was my first like introduction to anything harder than Creedence Clearwater Revival, basically. So, I love 80s thrash stuff. I love technical guitar playing, Guns N' Roses and things like that. So
Nice.
I add a little different element to the band. Obviously they've got a sound and it's great. They do it well, and I always just kind of sprinkle in something that might be from something a little alien or something like that. Avenged Sevenfold's another band I really love in that type of genre. So it kind of keeps us a little separates us a little bit from some of the other bands.
Oh, that's cool.
I love Trans-Siberian Orchestra as well. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. Awesome.
So you guys started in 2018, and kind of live music, live entertainment really just kind of ceased to exist after, 2020. So we skipped 2020, 2021. So realistically by 2021, you guys have really only had 2 years, to be able to perform and to do shows. And, man, so
right.
I'm really curious how, I know you guys said you started in 2018. How did 2020 impact you guys as a band being so new? And you guys start in 2018, you have this chemistry where you're like, man, I think we may have something here. You guys start coming together.
Right.
2019, you're probably still, you're building up that momentum, and then you just get slapped in the face by 2020.
Right.
Like, what was that like? Like, how did you guys bounce back from that?
Yeah, I mean, we literally had a show. I don't remember the exact date, but I do remember that we had a show that was canceled the day, or it was supposed to be the day after that everything shut down. And being in Washington, I think we were like the first state that closed everything down.
Wow.
And so it was just kind of like, which in that time, days leading up, it's like no one had no idea what was going to happen. And so it was really like that same weekend that everything closed down we literally had a show. So like, that's how we're just like, okay, well, now what? I mean, I think as we've progressed, and I think as our social media presence and everything, and I mean, I'm a lot more involved on that front than we used to be. So if something like that, I mean, God forbid, believe me, were to happen again, I think we would still be pretty active in, trying to get creative, because that's what everyone had to do, was just be as creative as possible. We couldn't play shows anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And back then we didn't, I don't know, I didn't really have the chops of that. So we just kind of like sat and waited. And we're like, okay, well, this is going to be a while. So let's just start put some singles out and release our album. And luckily, I think we did that like right before. It was still early enough to where bands were still holding off on their own releases. And so there wasn't a whole lot of music out when that happened. And I'm not, we're a small band, but for what it was, I think it made like a decent amount of noise, that a little more than what we were expecting. So I think it did still, we were still able to make it work. But yeah, I mean, at that time, like you said, we're kind of starting out. I mean, we just finished recording everything. We didn't have a huge presence. So it's like playing shows was basically the only thing we knew how to do at the time. And when you don't have that at all, it feels like you have nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember when all of that shut down, because, I'm heavily, into music. I've been listening to Christian music since I was 20 years old. And I remember 2020 hit, and so many places shut down. You weren't allowed to do music. Fortunately for me, Seventh Day Slumber was one of those bands where they're like, you know what? We don't care. We're going to go out and we're going to do shows.
I remember seeing like Sean Foyt, and eventually people started to like, all right, screw this. Let's,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, you guys know, I mean, the lifestyle of a musician is hard, even without the pandemic. It's hard to make it a lifestyle. It's hard to make it a career. And so, I mean, when they decide to just shut everything down, all the artists are like, man, this is our livelihoods. This is what we're all about, And so they find themselves in a really difficult spot. But, at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, you know?
I remember, we interviewed Matt from Spoken, and he talked about that, the impact of, the pandemic, I mean, hit him really hard, and it was really crazy. I could imagine, you bands out there that depend on playing live gigs and things like that, and selling your merch and surviving, and then all of a sudden that's just bam taken away. It's like, oh my goodness, man. It's
I think a part that it really hit me big time when we started coming out of the pandemic, and just not realizing like how many bands just kind of fizzled out and how many bands started during it.
Right.
It was like a whole new scene. It was like, I mean, a 180 of just kind of like, okay, well, who do we even play with it? You had to kind of like rediscover so many bands to put on a bill and everything.
Yep.
That was, and some of them have come back since, but most of them haven't. So yeah, it's like, yeah, that was a big crazy part for me that I noticed.
I know you guys were talking about like the tours, and you had talked with Conviction and the other band. So have you guys done any tours, or have most of your shows been more local?
So we've mainly done local, within hour and a half distance from us. We have a tour. I mean, it was supposed to be 5 days. We had to cut it a day. I'll get to that in a minute. But we have just a 4-day run that we're doing in July. That'll be so anyone listening is from Washington and Oregon. That'll be in those spots there. We're supposed to do Idaho also, but the day that we're supposed to do that was in Boise. And after we had got it all planned out, As I Lay Dying announced that they were touring the same day in the same city. And Idaho is one of those places where not a lot of tours go through there. So when one does, like, everybody goes to it.
Right.
And so the guy we were networking with, he was like, hey, like, it's probably best if you guys just hold off. And come. I was like, okay, you're right. I don't want to take any of their fans away from them.
There you go, dude.
That's a solid. So, so we're just doing a 4-day thing. That'll be our longest stretch we've done so far. So it'll be kind of good to kind of get our feet wet a little bit.
Oh, cool. Cool. That's awesome.
All right. So guys, before we let you go, for anybody that's listening, what's a way for our listeners to be able to stay up to date with you guys, to follow you guys, support you? If you have, if they're able to buy merchandise, if you have a Patreon or anything like that, just what are some ways or some websites that they can go to so that they can stay up to date with what you guys got going on and show that support?
Yeah, well, all our music's on all the streaming platforms. You can check us out on Spotify and all that. Like I said, we just released a new EP. So we're pretty excited about that. You can support us also by following us on, we're on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, YouTube and everything. We have a music video out that Ghost Killer Records put out a few months ago. So yeah, if anyone's interested in checking that out, and sharing that around, we also have merch. We have a link tree that has all that information, including our merchandise and all that. So t-shirts, hats, stickers, and all that stuff. So then, yeah, if anyone's in the Washington, Oregon area and wants to see us this summer that hasn't gotten to see us yet, or you're closer by, then we got one more show in Tacoma in May, and then we have kind of the weekender tour thing in July was 10th through the 14th. Yeah, that's right. I have to look again, but yeah, I think that's right. And so, yeah, a lot of different ways to support us. That even if it's just streaming our music, that's more than enough for us.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Good deal. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us, for hanging out with us, and we hope that you guys have a great night.
Yeah, great. Thank you guys.